Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. CNBC-TV18 Marquee Nights.
In this Mumbai edition of CNBC-TV18's Marquee Nights, your host Anuradha Sengupta is in conversation with Yannick Bolloré, the chairman of Vivendi and chairman and CEO of the Havas Group. Get ready for insights on how one of the world's largest global communications groups is looking to make a meaningful difference to brands, businesses and people. Catch him unplugged as he shares his thoughts on media, Metaverse and Musk.
On Elon Musk himself, I wouldn't, bet against him.
I wouldn't bet against him. Gameloft this year has bucked the trend that the industry is displaying in terms of the industry is actually shrinking.
Number one, they have been very smart to move from mobile games only to console games. We are also benefiting from the fact that video platforms such as Netflix or Disney Plus or Apple are launching their vertical of video games.
What are your views on the metaverse?
I believe in platforms that will provide social interaction. If you say that we call metaverse something that is an immersive experience, the answer is, I would say, would be different.
I need to ask you, though, about the advertising and subscription dilemma. So Netflix going advertising, opening up to advertising, and Twitter wanting to chase subscription revenues. Is this a big deal, is what I'm trying to get at?
You don't need to oppose advertising and subscription. Sometimes, look at Netflix, they can coexist. The AVOD, it's not free. It's like $5 a month plus advertising. So maybe we can find a compromise, something more nuanced. I'm a man of compromise and trying to move things forward.
Anybody who's in a democracy is a man or woman of compromise, isn't it? It's always constant negotiation. Do you feel envy when you see Elon Musk? Just what he's doing. Sorry, I can't resist. Elon Musk is the gift that keeps giving today for journalists. So do you feel envy that he's got such freedom to do what he wants, and of course at that price?
This is a dangerous question. No, it's not. It's not feeling envy, but I have tremendous respect for what he has been achieving. To be honest, as a business person. Tesla is a great company. SpaceX is. I don't think I will go to space one day in my life, so I don't feel very concerned. And I hope we won't have to go to Mars to survive as a species. But I have a lot of respect for him. So, and that's true that he's funny for a journalist, but also for people when you see his tweets.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Dailymotion, because that's that is your video sharing platform, and that is Vivendi's social media content creator medium.
It's a distribution. It's like YouTube. Yeah. So it's a content distribution platform. It became very premium in the past 5 years, but because of the safe environment for advertisers. Because before it was UGC, so user-generated content. So basically anyone could create the content and post it on Dailymotion with very few filters. Yeah. And it was creating unsafe environment for some clients. So we decided to move to premium type of content. So the environment is safe. It's very hard to compete against Google, to be honest. But still, the teams are doing a great job. They have a strong presence in India, and they are growing. They are very smart. They will launch, so I cannot tell you, but they are working on a new version of Dailymotion that will launch in March, which is, by the way, very smart. And just to tease you, I'm not supposed, but I hope they won't be watching, it will be about freedom of speech. So freedom of speech, just to echo with your last question, but in a safe and positive environment.
So
maybe it's going to be the next Twitter.
You actually just cued my next question, which is there an opportunity here, given the kind of questions about Twitter And we are not going to underestimate Elon Musk. That's a point you've made very categorically and unequivocally. But do you think there's an opportunity here for a company like Vivendi, for a group like Vivendi and other tech giants to come out to the market and present an alternative to Twitter? Or can these kind of technological innovations only happen in garages and not with big conglomerates?
No. I think innovation can happen everywhere, and I can tell you, and it's safe to say that we encourage innovation at Vivendi and at Havas everywhere in the group. This is how we digitalized Canal Plus at that time, well before everyone else, and I think this is why we are still alive and performing well. Because as a CEO, sometimes I get asked what keeps me up at night. And one of the answer, which is a true answer, is that a startup that I've never heard of would create a business that will disrupt our business. And what I'm always trying to do is I'm trying with my teams to try to invent or to describe what would be our worst nightmare. So we are working in like a hackathons format. What would be the worst nightmare for us in the future if someone were to create this kind of startups or disruption or innovation? And we are trying. Solution is to try to do it yourself. So many times we have launched new initiatives. Sometimes we have failed. Sometimes we have succeeded. So innovation can come from Vivendi for sure. At least we are encouraging it. Then in terms of platform, you have a huge premium when you were the first. One of the first. Facebook on social media, Snap, TikTok now, Twitter. So I think the real question around Twitter, if I may, I'm not working at Twitter. The real question is about the usage of Twitter. The question I want to ask to Twitter's people is, what about your usage? Are your people watching less their Twitter feed? And today I'm not sure, because I think the usage of Twitter is still very, very strong. So, things will calm down. Every time in life we've seen some crises at companies. I'm sure most of you, when you look at the past of your own companies, you had to face some turbulences. Those ones are hyper discussed because all the journalists in the world are on Twitter, so they all have an opinion on Twitter. So there is this kind of overexposure. But I'm sure in 1 year or 2 years, things will get normal again.
It's interesting because you're right. Journalists love Twitter across the world, and it therefore has a disproportionate influence. Real people outside of journalism are not really that into Twitter. In India, it's WhatsApp that keeps everything going. But let's move now to something very different. Let's make it personal. Yeah. Ha, as a Bengali would say, and ha, as you would say in Hindi. You're the 7th generation Bolloré. How do you see new Vivendi? Also, your father, Vincent Bolloré, is iconic, and that's an understatement. How do you see your outlook to business as being different from his? Because he's chairman and CEO and these big groups and billions of euros in revenues and profits. But he's a millennial. So how do you see business? How is it different? And how do you see new Vivendi?
Technically, I'm a millennial by 1 month. Because people are always upset when I tell young people that I'm a millennial like them. They say, no, you're not really a millennial, you look old. I say, no, I'm a millennial. I was born 1 month after January 1st, 1980. So technically, I'm a millennial. The question when you work in a family group, the importance is the long-term strategy. Why? Because when you inherit a group, the idea is to prepare the group for the next generation, to make sure that the group will be still alive, still performing, not too high debt, just to make sure the financial situation is healthy, the business are performing, just to make sure we are not missing any disruption on the industry. Yeah. Maybe this is why it's keeping me up at night.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot. And the question is, how do I make sure that the decisions I'm making today will impact positively the group for the next 30 years? Too often I see CEOs, and some are friends, and they take some decisions that are very short-term focused. And I tell them, hey, why did you make that decision? It's going to be good on the short term, but have you think about the long term? And some of the guys are CEO of publicly listed companies. They don't really own shares. And say, you can't imagine the pressure I have from the stock market to deliver on my quarterly results. You cannot imagine. So I know that maybe on the long term, it's not a good decision, like to lay off thousands of people. But maybe on the short term, it will be good on my stock price. And this is the opposite. Like, take COVID, for instance. During COVID, the world stopped. We had no more businesses. Our peers started to lay off, to cut compensation. And we took the opposite decision. We said there will be zero layoff during lockdown, zero. And we won't cut any compensation from anyone. And trust me, 6 months later or 1 year later, when the economy started to bounce back, people are very happy because they all stay in the companies, they feel safe, they feel at home, they feel they are part of a family, of something bigger than ourselves. And the competitors are still struggling to hire people or to rehire the people they have laid off during the confinement just after 1 month. They didn't wait 6 months, like 2 weeks, 1 month. So it's really about the long term. So my duty, if I might say, I received a fantastic group from my father, fantastic, together with my brothers and sister. And as the seventh generation, we need to make sure that first we prepare the eighth generation to be shareholder or managers, and that the group in 30 years time, will be at least as good as it is today. Let's hope it will be better, but we'll see. Maybe in 30 years, we'll invite me back and we'll do
we'll hold you to that.
Post-mortem analysis.
CNBC-TV18 Marquee Nights.
What's your vision for New Vivendi? And the spinning off of Universal Music Group, which was contributing to a large share of Vivendi's revenues last year. What did that mean strategically for your group? And is that also in sync with this new Vivendi that you see?
Yeah, so we decided to spin off the Universal Music Group, the world leader in the music industry. I think it's the world leader in every country but India because of Bollywood music. So
T-Series.
Yeah.
And
so that was the only country where we're not the market leader. But congrats to the Indian musicians and teams. And the idea was to spin off to develop their growth. I think on the long term, it was better for UMG to be on a more standalone basis. So we shifted from a 100% ownership position to a 28% ownership position. So we are still the largest shareholder. We are still supporting the teams, the managers, obviously the artists, but more on a, I would say, a passenger seat type of position. We are not driving anymore. The team is fantastic. And the timing of the operation was brilliant, to be honest, for both UMG and both Vivendi. So it allowed us to redevelop in other type of industries. Our idea is very simple at Vivendi, is to create a world leader in content, media, and communication. We believe that our European roots are a positive aspect because we are the only or one of the two European communication and media conglomerate. All the others are Indian, Chinese, or
American.
Especially American. I would say 90% American, 95% American. And the Americans, I mean, they are a fantastic group, don't misunderstand me, but they tend to process everything. Yeah. So once they have found a narrative, they replicate this narrative in every movie. So take a Disney movie, it's always the same. It starts with a drama and the main character will rebuild himself. Same with Star Wars, same with Pixar and everything. We believe as Europeans, because we are a constellation of groups of different people, different countries, different languages, we believe in local cultural specificities. And this is why we are encouraging authors from everywhere in the world, whatever their background is, to develop their own creative ideas. We don't have any producer's cut. It's really the director's cut, the author's cut. And this is working very well. And we believe to source our content differently can be a game changer in the world of tomorrow because we would be able to create and invent new formats.
Okay, so I'm not going to make this like an annual report conversation. I'm not going to go into the other businesses, and publishing is a large part of it. There's a big acquisition on which you're facing some regulatory, concerns, barriers.
We are waiting from the authorization from the antitrust.
Yeah. So I won't go into that, but if you're interested, it's all out there, and it's quite fascinating, how the Vivendi Group, using acquisition as a key strategy, has really become a 21st century media and entertainment company. One quick question on the macroeconomic environment. We know that it's cold in winter. It's going to be a long, dark, cold winter. Energy prices are high. Recession is in the air. France seems to be bucking the trend. And we're counting down to a new year, which has no peace on the horizon as of November, right? What are the opportunities and challenges that you see? And I heard you say on Twitter that you saw deglobalization emerging as a key challenge. So I want you to just take that.
Now, maybe to focus on the deglobalization aspect. So I have a huge belief that the world has changed and we haven't noticed yet. When I started my career, we were talking about the rise of the middle class. Hundreds of millions of citizens in the world were accessing middle class. Advertising was booming. The rise of digital, the world was coming as one. And suddenly, without noticing, I remember in Cannes Lions. It's a big trade event in Cannes, south of France, and it was the Brexit or the Remain vote. You remember in the UK when they had to vote to stay or to remain in the EU or to leave. And I remember we went to bed, the Remain had won, so needless to say that our teams were super happy, super open to the world as I described them. And the next day we woke up and Brexit has won, so it was a big surprise. Then the year after we had the big election, presidential election in the US, same kind of surprise, I would say, with the speech. I mean, without entering into the psychology of the winner, what was interesting is that the winner's program was against globalization, was a kind of my nation first. We come back to localize all the production in the US. We block all the frontier, the borders. No one is allowed to come in.
The Great Wall.
Remember all that. So it was quite the opposite of a happy globalization. And I think we have entered at that time in an era of deglobalization. So the good thing at Vivendi is that we believe in specificities of countries. So in every businesses we operate, in every countries we operate, we have some local management. And the question is, how do we make the balance between staying a global group, staying a global family, but without entering into this era of deglobalization? So I need to make sure, and this is very important, that the culture aspect of being part of a family group remains at Vivendi and at Havas. The day I will see some people or some managers trying to become close to themselves, not open to the world, I think it will be time to change. And it's going to be difficult. So, I mean, the good thing in India, I think your country is friend with most of the countries in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
Today, as of today. Same
today.
in France.
Yes.
Same in France. But I would say geopolitical issues are my main concern, even more than macroeconomical, to be honest with you. But there is two ways to approach it. Whether you say, "Oh, there is nothing I can do about it. It's not my thing. That's political leaders. I have nothing to do with that. So it will be their decision, and I will adapt." This is not at all what I have in mind. Working in communication, working in advertising, we have unique opportunities to influence human behaviors. Unique opportunities to tell our clients that they need to be working not only to sell product at an affordable price, but they need to be working to contribute to communities, to make sure people feel better if they consume their products. This is what we have called how to make a meaningful difference to brands and businesses. And I think our role is very important as communicant, as media, is to make sure that we can try to influence the behaviors not only of the political leaders, but also of the people. And this is a power we have.
And it's a responsibility.
And it's a huge responsibility. I'm not sure we'll be successful, but I will dedicate 100% of my energy to make sure that the world is as good as it could be.
Final question. What would you rate as France's chances of taking the World Cup back?
the problem of the French people, at least in sport, they are better where they are not the favorite team. It's better when they are the underdog. So we'll see. That's the magic of sport.
Okay, so we wish Les Bleus a lot of good luck. Thank you, Yannick. Ladies and gentlemen, Yannick Bolloré.
Thank you very much.
Today, it was a wonderful conversation, very enriching, and even the quality of people who are attending, talking to them. My key takeaway especially was what Yannick said about, thinking a little long term. Each one of us are running businesses in different category. But generally, everyone's thinking 3 years, 5 years. But the thing is, we have to think a little long term, 10 years into the system to actually unlock the potential of it and investing in human capital.
It was a very interesting discussion. Indeed a marquee night, I would say. And I loved listening to Yannick and especially his different thoughts in terms of media. Loved his take on Twitter and Elon Musk as well. That was quite nice. It's a very different perspective that he showed. And even the way gaming and his entire thoughts around, Metaverse, quite interesting.
It's been a really nice experience. I think what you get out of an event like this is there's a level of exposure to how a global leader is thinking about an organization that spans different continents, different businesses, how they are buffeted by geopolitical pressures, how they've been hit by the pandemic, and how they are managing to still keep an ethos and a culture alive.
What was really encouraging was the fact that there is so much confidence on India as a country and the growth that India has to offer for globally as well as for the country itself. So I think that was really a lovely takeaway from the evening.
I think it's a real privilege to be here and hear straight from Mr. Bolloré about his experience about business, how he built it up, and his unique perspective. So I think really, really enriching to hear it straight up live from him.
I think it was fascinating. I'm glad that you guys have revived Marquee Nights. It was a pleasure to listen to Yannick. I'm still disturbed by the fact that he's millennial, but the fact that there's so much happening, there's so much change that is happening, and the constant evolution, of course, a little bit of gossip that Anuradha peppered in, but it was interesting, and I think it's thought-provoking. The key thing that I go back with is to have some things that you can mull over, and that's what the evening has given me.
CNBC-TV18 Marquee Nights. Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.